Hey everybody, I'm going to do my best to show you all of the new gear that's going to be going into Hatch, all the different pieces, how it's all going to connect, what all the software looks like, and try to do it without a ton of back and forth on everything. So let me start by listing off the pieces of gear that are new. So first off, you've got the Blackmagic Studio Pro, which is the switcher piece. You've got a HyperDeck recorder, which is this top black box. And you've got this Blackmagic Web Presenter, which is the bottom box. And then the iMac Pro here, that is for running the Blackmagic software, live streaming, as well as ProPresenter. So those are the new pieces, lots of new cables and all of that kind of stuff that goes along with it as well. So those are the pieces that are new. So let me kind of explain how everything will connect in with what's already existing in Hatch and kind of what this is replacing. So into this switcher, you're going to have 5 different inputs, and I'm going to speak for BDT and what's happening this summer, but hopefully this will also all apply to stuff that happens in Hatch outside of youth weeks. So you've got 3 cameras that are going to come in, cameras 1, 2, and 3. You will have ProPresenter, which is coming in from the iMac Pro, and then you will have a lower thirds feed that is coming in, that comes in from another computer. On the Blackmagic switcher, you have 4 HDMI inputs and you have 4 SDI inputs. The computers will be coming in over the HDMI inputs. The cameras will be coming in over the SDI inputs. So the existing camera lines that are run for the cameras in Hatch can just be extended and plugged into inputs 5, 6, and 7 in the back of the switcher, which are your first 3 SDI inputs. The computers will be plugged into inputs 3 and 4, which are the last 2 inputs for HDMI. So we tried to combine it to where all of the sources are all together along the switcher, so that it's easy to operate everything. So that's what everything looks like coming in. Going out, how it will all connect is you have a program out off of the switcher that's going to come SDI to the HyperDeck. The HyperDeck is the recorder. It's got the SD card slots in it, and you can record anything that you're doing in here. This then loops out another SDI cable into the Web Presenter, and that's how it gets its signal. It connects, the Web Presenter connects to the iMac Pro via a USB cable, which is how you can do all of your live streaming. You will also have an SDI cable that is coming off of the Web Presenter that will connect into the side screens of Hatch to the projectors. So program feed will come out of the board to the HyperDeck to the Web Presenter, and the Web Presenter will send the program feed out to what is the side screen. So right now this far left TV represents what the side screens would look like. Then back at the switcher, there is also an auxiliary out that's an SDI out, and it will connect into the center projector screen line that is currently in Hatch. So you've got one signal that's going out to the side screens, which is your program feed, and then you've got a separate aux out which is going to the center screen, which would allow you to either run the same thing on all 3 screens, or you can run separate things on the center and side screens. So that's kind of the signal flow side of things. I've put all of this into a Google Doc that can be shared and left on this iMac Pro as well, that will show how all of the pieces connect and go together. Couple more connections that I just remembered. You're going to have 2 XLR inputs coming into the back of the Blackmagic switcher, which will come off of the audio console in Hatch. That's how you'll be able to get audio to everything. And then there are a couple of pieces that will actually be connected to the network via an Ethernet cable. The switcher can be connected to the network. The HyperDeck can be connected to the network. And the iMac Pro will need to be connected to the network as well. So that allows some of the pieces to talk together, allows you to do all sorts of kind of remote in sort of capabilities for controlling things elsewhere from besides the booth. So that covers all of the connection sides of things. So let me now show you what the software control looks like on the iMac Pro. So all of the ATEM switchers come with a software, which is essentially a digital version of all of the hardware. So when you're logged in into an account on the iMac Pro, this icon here is the ATEM software control. And it launches a digital version of the switcher, and you can actually control everything from here as well, separate from having to use the actual hardware piece. So a couple different things to pay attention in here, things that you shouldn't have to touch, but if you need to get into settings of any sorts, under the ATEM software control and preferences, you have an IP address for the switcher itself. Right now I've set it to 192.168.1.242. If there's already a piece of equipment in Hatch that's at that, then obviously this will have to change. This is where either Nathan or Gam can step in and help make sure that things are on the right IP address. Mapping wise, nothing should have to change here. What we've done is set up inputs 3 through 7 as 2 computer inputs and the 3 camera inputs. The other spot is there's this little cog wheel down in the bottom left-hand corner that opens up a panel with another 6 preferences. So video wise, you've got a video standard. For us, it's 1080i 5994. As long as all of the cameras in Hatch are set to this as well, then this will work. It is possible to change it if they are not 1080i 5994. There's several different options here, but you should be able to just roll with this and go. Nothing much under audio. Multi-viewer, you can kind of change the way the multi-viewer is laid out. Some labeling stuff. Again, all of this stuff has been set to where it can hopefully just stay as is and not have to be messed with. So the other pieces in here in the software, in this this right hand column, you've got 2 different things that you'll probably use, 2 or 3. In the keyers, you have 2 different, kind of 3 different key items that you can choose from. You've got an upstream key 1, which is here, which I would suggest setting the fill source and the key source to the lower thirds input for lower thirds of lyrics during worship. You also have a couple of downstream keys that I would suggest setting to. You've got a fill source and a key source. So media player 1, media player 1 key, media player 2, and media player 2 key. And where these images actually sit is here along the bottom of the software, you've got 4 different buttons. You've got a switcher, media, audio, and camera. And in this media bin, you have the ability to load in all sorts of graphics. So what we've done is created like a little lower third, or not a lower third, kind of a bug watermark of our logo. This second one here is kind of a full screen BDT logo. You can come in here and keep dropping in all sorts of graphics. There's a library over here where you actually can browse out to pieces, you know, out to your desktop, file access on your computer, find images, and literally come over and drop them into these slots. And then to define your media player 1 and 2, you would just take whatever image it is and you can click and drag and bring it over to this area. So for example, I just set my media player 1 and 2 both to those graphics. I can drag this BDT logo back over here. So you could use this if you had like lower thirds for proclaimers. You could bring those items into here. And so on the switcher, when you hit your DSK1 for downstream key auto, what it will do is bring up that key in the lower corner. I can remove that by auto. If I push to auto, you see that you get this full screen BDT graphic that comes over top as well. So that's how all of the keyers work. So you've got this media bin in here that you could drop in graphics and then use those to lay over top. So let me now move to the actual console so you guys know kind of where everything is located. Up here from this little screen to the left is literally all camera control stuff that unless you were to upgrade cameras and hatch, you're actually not going to use any of this sort of stuff. This would be if you had cameras that can be controlled from the console, which is a lot of Blackmagic's cameras. So really a lot of this isn't going to be used. Over here you've got a look at what your program out looks like, and then you've got a couple of buttons for a menu system and a little scroll knob for a menu system. This menu, a lot of these settings that are in here are actually all settings that you can access from the software control on the iMac Pro, and it's actually easier to work with them on the iMac Pro than it is to use this little scroll knob and jump through things. So that's what the menu looks like. I'll come back to this aux button in just a minute. Here on the switcher, you've got another section with all of your inputs coming in and different audio levels for cameras. So again, you guys probably won't use this section much, but if you were in a scenario where you had 3 different cameras and you were a reporter out in the field, you could use the audio coming in from the cameras. These are audio follow video buttons. So again, feature that you probably won't use at all, at least for what you guys typically do. This section here is all of your transitions. You've got all of your fun, crazy stuff over here, pushing left to right, up, down, all this kind of stuff. If you just leave it on mix, mix is just going to do a crossfade between sources, which is what you're going to want the most of the time. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner, you've got what you guys are probably used to seeing. Your top row is your program row, so whatever is live is lit up in red. Your bottom row here is your preview row, so whatever source you have previewed is lit in green. You have your cut and auto buttons here, which allow you to either do a direct cut between sources. Auto will do a transition. This little fader here is similar to a T-bar if you've worked with other switchers. So if you wanted to do some kind of creative fades in, you could, but that just kind of replaces a T-bar from other switchers. A couple other buttons here. You've got a for your upstream key that we talked about earlier, you have a way to turn that key on to do kind of a crossfade of that on the screen. You can see that it added the lyrics up on the screen, and you can take them off. And then you've got downstream keys that are up here as well, which allow you to apply some other keys. So for example, this one, if it was defined, you could do like a watermark on the bottom of the screen, or you've got other you know, keys that you could throw in there as well. So let me quickly go over the multi-viewer. I didn't mention this, but the multi-viewer is a TV screen that's connected to the switcher via an HDMI cable. So just an HDMI cable between these two. And you'll be able to see your preview window. So whatever you have previewed up on your preview row on the switcher is here. You've got your program window, which is your program row. So this is actually whatever is live is here. And then all of your individual sources, the 8 sources down on the bottom. So the first 2 are set to black. The third one is set to lower thirds, which is an iMac feeding in lower third lyrics out of ProPresenter. Fourth input is the iMac Pro with ProPresenter running on it, full screen, motion backgrounds, lyrics, and then camera 1, 2, and 3 along the bottom. So this is what the multi-viewer looks like and how it's set up. This is all customizable, configurable. You guys can tweak it if you want to for other scenarios, but to have everything line up with the buttons on the switcher and what you see up here, I would probably try to leave this if at all possible. So the pieces here need a little less explanation. So the HyperDeck, all you have to do is take an SD card that you have, take the SD card and just drop it in there, lock it into place, and then simply just hit the record button. Once it initializes, oh, it's actually disk full. So what you can do, this will happen to you guys, but you can hit the menu button and hit the set button, come down here to format card. I'm in SD slot 1, I'll push that again. Format, depending on what kind of computer you'd be going into. For you guys, OS X Extended would work, because you'll most of the time be viewing these on a Mac. If you needed to access these files on Windows, then I would choose exFAT. So it's going to ask me if I'm on a format, and I'm going to go ahead and format that. So as far as kind of what I envision you guys being able to do, this would be a BDT setup for the summer. What I would do is I would set your auxiliary output. So we talked about the auxiliary output on this board. You've actually got this button up here at the very top, AUX. If you push that button, what you'll see is your row, your program row changes here to this white button, and this is how you define what your auxiliary source is. I would leave this set to ProPresenter so that ProPresenter is always on your center screen in Hatch. So you just put ProPresenter and hit the aux button again. Once you do, it goes back into the normal mode. And then I would allow your program out to go out to your side screen. So these TVs, again, this one represents your side screens, this one represents your center screens. And so for example, if you're doing pre-service announcements, countdown video, whatever, you would set your program row to Pro Presenter as well. So you would have the same announcement slides or countdown video on all 3 screens. If you're playing a video during a service, it would play on all 3 screens. For worship, drama, and proclaimers, I would use a mix between the 3 cameras for all of the rest of those things. So during a proclaimer, on your center screen, you could put your camp logo in Pro Presenter from your iMac Pro. And then you've got the proclaimer up, the 3 different camera shots on the side screens. Same with a drama. You could put the camp logo up there, or you could put up a background or something that works for the drama on the center screen, and then you've got the cameras on the side screen for iMac. For worship, you would have full screen motion backgrounds, lyrics coming out of Pro Presenter on the center screen, and you'd have cameras on the side screen, and using a separate computer. So for us right here, it's actually this iMac. For you guys, it could be another one of the MacBook Pro laptops, but you would have a copy of all of the songs there as well. So you'd have a copy of the songs on the iMac Pro with backgrounds, lyrics, and then you would have another MacBook Pro, excuse me, that would have all of the same songs in it, but the lyrics formatted with no backgrounds and kind of moved down to a lower third in the left-hand corner, or centered, or however you would want to do it. And you would actually overlay your lyrics up here on the side screen. So with all 3 screens, you'd have iMac on the side screens with the lyrics, and then the center screen would have your motion background and lyrics over top of it as well. So that's what I would recommend as far as the setup goes for running everything between worship, drama, proclaimers, pre-service, after service, videos, etc. The biggest reason why I would go with cameras out on the side screens for all of that stuff is when it jumps into your live streaming piece, which we haven't covered up to this point. So I'll show you guys now how that happens. So we talked about how the signal flowed out of the switcher to the HyperDeck to the web presenter. It connects into the iMac Pro from via a USB cable. So if I jump over here to Firefox really quick, which is what we found is the best way to stream, or the best browser for doing this Facebook Live streaming. All you have to do, so whoever is an admin for the BDT Facebook page, or for a Caswell page, or whatever, one of the admins needs to be logged into Facebook on this on the iMac Pro, and they will jump in, click live video, and it's going to access the web presenter. Your program feed, whatever's live on your program row, is actually going to get pulled into Facebook Live. And so if you were running Pro Presenter with motion backgrounds and lyrics on the side screens, people at home that are watching the live stream are only going to see the motion background and lyrics, and they're not going to be able to see actually what's happening on stage. And so that's why I would recommend running cameras during worship with the lower third lyrics over top, so that all of your folks at home are seeing the lyrics of the songs, but they're actually seeing the camera shots from the room and not just a big full screen graphic. So really you'd be running cameras almost throughout the entire service, except for before and after, in any videos that would happen. Once you've got it pulled up in the window here, really all you have to do, you can choose where you want to share it. So one of those admins would just be able to click share on a page that you manage, and then you'd be able to choose a page. So for you guys, this would probably say BDT, and then all you have to do is hit go live. It goes live, and then it switches along pretty quickly with everything that's happening. So that's how you would stream with Facebook Live. You can stream with a bunch of other platforms besides just Facebook with this web presenter. You could do YouTube, you can do live stream, Ustream, a bunch of other open platform stuff as well. So there's bunches of options, but for you guys, the Facebook Live is what you guys are going to roll with this summer. So that handles all of the streaming side of things. One thing I'll quickly go back and touch on with doing the lower third lyrics is you'll actually need a little piece of software from Renewed Vision, which is the folks who create Pro Presenter, that are actually going to link the iMac Pro with one of your MacBooks. So you don't actually need someone here running lyrics and someone running lyrics on the iMac Pro. You can actually tie the two together and have them run simultaneously. So it's one less person that you need. But I can get you guys the details on that. So I think that's it. We covered connections, how everything is connected, how it all goes together, what the pieces are. We talked about the switcher and what all of the various different aspects do. We talked about the multi-viewer. We talked about live streaming. We talked about what I envision as a setup for you guys for this summer and what signals should go where. On the iMac Pro, you've got all the manuals for all of the gear. That's on there. This video will be on there. The Google Doc that has all of the connection schemes will be on there. So I think if you have anything, obviously, you guys can ask me questions. But that's how it all goes together. I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, just let me know.